What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here, talking today about the PlayStation 5, because this week actually marks the 1-year anniversary of the release of Sony's latest console, which you can see I have here completely customized to be very Spider-Man themed. To be perfectly honest, I have completely loved my first year with the PS5. It's actually been a very good time experiencing these exclusives, this really interesting new hardware, and kind of seeing what feels like the next generation of gaming finally starting. But I want to talk about the goods and the bads. I actually want to look at some of the valid criticisms I see that are levied against Sony's big bad. But let's start off by talking about some of the positives, which is definitely the games themselves. It seems like the biggest motivator to buy any particular console is usually the exclusives themselves, the fact that you actually have to buy one certain console to play the games that only exist on it. And in general, I've always thought that PlayStation's kind of killing it with exclusives. Stuff like Ghost of Tsushima, the fact that Bloodborne still only exists on PlayStation consoles. I mean, right now, it is a very glorious time to run around in the PlayStation universe. But this generation, I feel like already, even in the first year, we've seen some absolute bangers coming out on the PlayStation 5. A game like Ratchet & Clank is just so boundary pushing because not only is it incredibly fun to play and cool to look at graphically, but even the way it works is so technologically impressive. And I feel like this kind of exists for a lot of PS5 exclusive games. Even when it came to third-party stuff that was coming out only on the PS5, it still managed to impress. But I've also kind of just been fascinated by how people are talking differently about PS5 games. Like, something that comes to mind is pretty much every single day in my comment section, I see people talking about how they're completely obsessed with Returnal. Now, this, on any other platform, I think this would have been a much more niche release. The fact that it is a roguelike that is incredibly difficult, this game is savagely punishing. I feel like, for the most part, this would not have gained mainstream appeal. But shockingly, I've just seen so many people picking it up and now championing the fact that it is such a different style of masterpiece. But I have noticed something that's very interesting, which is that even if a game isn't exclusive, a lot of times it's still going to have unique aspects to it that only exist on the PS5. Not just like extra levels and content, but something that comes to mind is this very cool controller. Now, I'll just say this. When the PS5 first came out, like that first month, I wasn't super in love with the idea of the haptic triggers. It was something that definitely took me like 30 days to adapt to. Now, essentially the way this works, in case you haven't had a chance to play with the PlayStation 5 itself, is that a lot of games actually integrate these special functionalities into these triggers. They're able to cause pushback and resistance. There's things like in Deathloop, if you pick up a low-quality gun and try and shoot somebody with it, there's a 20% chance that the gun will jam, and the way it actually does this in real life is you physically cannot pull the trigger. It's something that feels much more kinetic, much more tactile. It makes you feel more integrated into the game itself because there is that sense of immersion. It's not just something on the screen telling you it's broken, it's you feeling it's broken in your hands. Now, for that first month or two, I was actually playing a lot with my PS4 controller still because the PS4 controller does work on the PlayStation 5 as long as you're playing a PS4 game. Look how dusty this thing is now. I think this kind of just shows how much I love my PS5 controller and why, obviously, I decided to customize mine. But I want to talk a tiny bit more about PS4 games for a second, because one of the things I've enjoyed most about my PlayStation 5 is that, honestly, I'm still mostly playing last-gen stuff. I mean, let's just face facts. This year, even though it has had some big, exclusive, cool games, this has not been the most packed freaking calendar. If you look at the replies of any tweets talking about Game of the Year nominations and stuff, you're going to see a bunch of people saying that absolutely nothing came out. Now, these people are being ridiculous. This has actually been a pretty fun year in general, especially when you think about stuff like Psychonauts 2 coming out, all the things that have been dropping and secretly blowing minds, even if they are just more indie games. But I've still been playing a bunch of last-gen stuff because I do happen to own over 600 PlayStation 4 games. So during the course of this year, I've been going back through my back catalog and really enjoying the PlayStation 5 upgrades that happen. Now, the biggest thing is that this definitely runs better than a PlayStation 4 Pro. Like, obviously, right? Seeing so many games that I already loved being just bumped up in scale and resolution, having these games run at 4K is absolutely freaking mind-blowing. Like, sometimes you don't realize how much 4K matters until you get a chance to see true 4K being displayed on your television. Like, it's kind of bonkers how much you can get these extra bits of detail. Little tiny motions in the background are much more apparent. And more than that, I really appreciate that solid state drive. The fact that you can just instantly do anything inside the PlayStation 5. Teleporting, fast travel, all of it is so instantaneous. I love the solid states in this. It's so freaking good. But I feel like it's cool that there are so many games that are improved on my PlayStation 5. Now, I want to tell you a short story that I feel like very much is relevant to my love of the PS5. It actually affects how much I really enjoyed this first year of this amazing system. Even if it didn't have the most games or the most exclusives or the most mind-blowing technical masterpieces, I really loved it because I spent a lot of time stuck indoors. We had a lot of lockdowns and stuff, and so I really kind of went back through my back catalog, things that I'd missed before, and I got a chance to play them in what felt like the best version that they've ever existed. It's nice to run through old Final Fantasies again and again, or just play some co-op. In fact, just a couple months ago, we had the big freeze snowstorm here in Dallas, Texas, which completely sucked, where the entire state pretty much froze over. A bunch of people's power grids went out, and a bunch of my friends in real life that lost power ended up coming over to my house and staying on my couch for an entire week while they tried to figure everything out. And during this time, me and my best friend Nick completely beat Diablo 3. We beat it entirely, start to finish, multiple times, leveling up characters, doing billions of damage, and it was such a uniquely positive experience. Seeing that game just in such a glorious HD fashion and just having fun with my friend in this very, very troublesome time, it warmed my heart in a way that really made me realize how much I love the PlayStation 5. This is already fast becoming one of those systems that I really appreciate the fact that I keep discovering new things about it. Like just recently, I finally started to use the, what do they call it, 3D audio, where there's actually the ability that if you use some high quality headphones, you can sync your Bluetooth headphones directly to the PlayStation 5, and when you're doing something like wandering around in the streets of Judgment or whatever, the 3D audio will perfectly render the distance, the shape, the placement, so you can hear people walking past you in such a realistic fashion. And it's one of those things that I feel like is just so easy to do. While using something like this, it really makes me begin to see the fact that this is definitely the upper echelons of gaming. I feel like we're starting to see that there is no ceiling of how much immersion we can get with the pushing boundaries of stuff like VR and stuff, which I've gotten more into this year. I feel like I'm beginning to see that the PlayStation 5 is trying to make the best experience possible on your screen with this particular controller in your hand. Now, one of the major downsides, if I could just talk for a minute about things I didn't love this year, I do think that Sony has been better about communicating. They've been more clear with release dates, with hype, with trailers. I feel like they've been doing a lot better at explaining what games are before they come out. That way we're making informed purchases. But I do feel like Sony knew that God of War Ragnarok was going to get delayed. They knew that Gran Turismo 7 was going to get delayed. It really felt like they spent a gigantic portion of 2021 pretending that more games were coming out, and now they're all being bumped to early 2022. Now, I have no problems with the delays, but it does feel like Sony is just so desperate to make people want to line up for the system that they'll kind of say whatever it takes. I'm excited for the future of PS5. I'm so freaking ready to play Horizon Forbidden West, and I'm just curious to see what next we're going to play. This first year of PS5 has already been such a glorious experience. I've really enjoyed it, and I feel like it's actually been one of my favorite first years of any system ever. I bought the PS4 day one, and when I bought it, I still felt like I was playing a lot of PS3 for that first couple months. I've bought a lot of systems right as they came out, and there's usually this warm-up period. There's this ramping up of waiting for the console to get good. But now, I feel like the PS5, right out of the gate, it's got stuff that you need to play. Okay, well these have just been some off-the-cuff thoughts talking about the PlayStation 5 1 year later. What did you think about it? Tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. And please do me a giant favor, give this video a like. Hopefully this video can hit 3,000 likes, and subscribe if you haven't already. We're actually getting really close to 210,000 subscribers, which is pretty cool. Love you guys a bunch. Have a great day, and keep dreaming. Oh, I'm going to get a copyright strike for Spider-Man theme. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.